Hi everyone, Dave here, back with another video, and today I wanted to discuss a short manga series. Um, Basically, it's exactly how it sounds. I love saving money. I know that's a common theme with some of my videos, and I also am a very slow reader, and I don't often have the time to read. So, finding a manga series that is self contained in a one shot, which I discussed last time, which I also forgot to mention Super Mario Manga Mania in that one shot video. It's pretty funny. The art style is really quirky and kooky, and it can kind of actually get a little serious near the end. There's a full review on my channel for this as well. But this is irrelevant for today's video. Today I want to discuss short manga series. Now, when you think manga, you think of things like Dragon Ball, Bleach, One Piece, which is up to like volume 100 or whatever, or maybe 90 something. But that's a huge time commitment, that's a huge space commitment for your shelves, and that's a huge financial commitment. So I went over in my previous video about manga one-offs about why it might be better to try a shorter thing. But if you're looking for a more full story, but not something that's going to break the bank and take up a bunch of space in your room, here are a few recommendations that I have for shorter series. So let's get into that. First up, we have Samurai 8. This manga is 5 volumes long. It is from the creator of Naruto, from the mangaka Masashi Kishimoto from Naruto, and it's really good. I would love to get a review of this out. I had planned a review of it, and then I just got sidetracked with a bunch of other things, so I'm planning on rereading it and getting a review of this out at some point. But it's about a kid who is basically bedridden due to medical stuff, and he's always wanted to become a samurai, and through certain means he does become one. And it's a very interesting sci-fi take on samurai, because they're kind of, I don't want to go as far as to say cyborgs or machines, but they're not like traditional samurai. They're very much a sci-fi take on the concept of samurai, and the art in this is very good. I mean, the art in Kishimoto's work has always been really good. It's very, you look at this and you definitely can kind of tell that. The art was done by a different artist, but they emulated Kishimoto's style very well, and some of these vistas are very interesting. But you have interesting creatures that, this kid has a dog that, when he turns into a samurai, the dog turns into like this mount type thing, and you have a like his teacher is like this cat guy, which is really cool. But like they have like their sword is like embedded in their body almost, and it comes out like it's very it's kind of hard to explain, but it's such an interesting take on the concept of samurai. And they, throughout the series, they go to these different planets, they meet these interesting characters. There's a lot of cool stuff that comes into this series, and it just makes for a really fun, entertaining ride, and something that you get across 5 volumes. You get a full story over the course of 5 volumes. So, again, not a huge time sink, not a huge financial loss, and you get a great beginning, middle, and conclusion. There's no filler in a series like, Naruto. It almost got to the point where I kind of wished it was longer, but the fact that it's not, makes it a little special, in my opinion. Samurai 8, The Tale of Hachimaru, very great manga. I would love to review it a little more thoroughly at some point, but who knows. Next is by another famous mangaka. It's Monster Soul by Hiro Mashima, the creator and mangaka behind Fairy Tail, behind Eden Zero, Rave Master. And this is very much Hiro Mashima. I know his work, and I know Fairy Tail and things like that get a bad rap, but I honestly really like his work, and I like his art style. And I do think if you're a fan of some aspects of his um, stories, but maybe not a huge fan of the fan servicey elements of it, I would give Monster Soul a try. It's only 2 volumes. The unfortunate reality is it's only 2 volumes because it kind of got canceled, I think. At the end of it, there's a little note by Hiro Mashima himself, kind of explaining like, hey, this had to end because of X, Y, and Z. And it kind of got me a little choked up. I was like, man, this guy really did care about this property, and it kind of had to end. But all of these characters are monsters of some capacity, and it's kind of the typical, like, we're the bad guys, but we're the good guys type thing. Very much similar to something like Seven Deadly Sins, where it's like you think, oh, the deadly sins, they gotta be the bad guys, but they're actually the heroes. Except this is more entertaining than Seven Deadly Sins. um, but it's, there's some quirky, typical Hiro Mashima type gag humor. I will say the fan service, like I said, I believe is toned down. It's been a little while since I've read it, so I could be wrong about that. But if you're not a fan of the fan service, but you do like his style of storytelling, I would recommend Monster Soul. Again, only 2 volumes, very quick, simple read, and you get not necessarily a full story, admittedly, because it wasn't intended to be only 2 volumes, but I came out of it being like, oh man, I wanted more, but in a good way. It's not like, oh, well, they cut this off because it got canceled. Like, no, I came out of it thinking like, oh, I would have definitely read more of this, but unfortunately I can't. But again, it was a great, kind of well written, well rounded book, and despite it being canceled prematurely, I feel like it was a solid read. So, Monster Soul. Next up, we have Barrage, which I do have a review up on the channel, so I won't get too in depth into it. But this is a 2 volume series that is a very interesting sci-fi take on The Prince and the Pauper. Which I'm sure you guys are familiar with that story. Again, I won't get too in depth because I do have a review of this on my channel, in the reviews and impressions playlist. But it was a very good read, a very interesting. I feel like I use the word interesting a lot, but it's kind of my go-to word because a lot of stuff, something like this, a sci-fi adaptation of The Prince and the Pauper, is interesting. It's like, wow, that's cool. Didn't really think of that, but there's a lot of cool fights. There's obviously very typical shonen stuff like, oh, I'm protecting everyone because I got to. That's the way the world works. I have to protect everybody. Like, some typical stuff like that, but overall, a very good, interesting story. So, I would definitely recommend Barrage. And again, at only 2 volumes, not that much of a time sink. You see a theme here. Next, we have Dive. This is about high diving. It's 3 volumes, and if you're into a sports anime, if you're into swimming, or not anime, sorry, sports manga, and if you're into swimming manga, I'd recommend it. There are some weird spots in it, like, not like weird, but just like some odd storytelling choices that are kind of like, why would this character do that? That's kind of weird, but it tells the stories of these 3 divers pretty well. You have one diver who is just loves diving and he works really hard at it. One diver who's like supposed to be really good, but he doesn't, I don't know if my heart's in it. And one diver who is your typical kind of rough and like, I dive off of cliffs because that's what I do. Like, I don't dive in pools, I dive off of cliffs. Like, that, yeah, just by that statement, you already know everything you need to know about this guy. But they're all well-written, interesting characters. There I go again. But they're all well-written characters. It's a pretty decent self-contained story. I do feel like it ends kind of a little abruptly, like where it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're done. Like not in a bad way where it's like, oh well, that's it, it's done. But like in a way, it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's it. I guess we're done. So I definitely would recommend Dive, especially if you're into sports and diving. But it's not like the greatest thing in the world, but it is a good read. Again, only 3 volumes for decent story. Next, we have Dragon Quest Monsters Plus. Um, this is a 5-volume series, and it basically, I love Dragon Quest. It is one of my favorite game franchises ever. I'm recently replaying Dragon Quest XI for like the 6th time, and I'm very excited for the Dragon Quest III remake, if that ever happens. But I love Dragon Quest so much, and I love like having a manga of it. This is a manga for Dragon Quest fans. There are a lot of characters from previous games that make appearances. The story itself is a little kind of like it's not bad, but it's a little kind of like, not really. I don't know. It's not bad, but it's not good, I guess, is the best way to explain it. But this manga is good for fans. Like, if you're a fan of Dragon Quest, I would definitely recommend it because you'll see a lot of the monsters that you know and love, a lot of the characters that you know and love, a lot of the locations that you know and love, and that'll really get you through the lackluster story. If you're not a Dragon Quest fan, I honestly would still recommend it because, again, the story is not bad. It's just not the greatest thing in the world. It can kind of drag. It can kind of get a little confusing, especially the ending is really confusing. Or maybe not really confusing, but it's a little kind of like, wait, what? What's that supposed, like, what? I don't understand that. But but anyway, it's definitely got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of charm. Once again, if you're a fan of Dragon Quest, it's got a lot of that charm. And again, only 5 volumes. So my throat's getting a little dry here. So luckily we're on our last one, and that's Attack on Titan: No Regrets. I did do a review of this on the channel if you guys are interested. This is similar to Dragon Quest in the sense of if you're a fan of the original original property that it's based off of, you'll probably have a good time. If not, you still might have a good time, but it'll be a bit of a harder sell. There's a lot in the story that I do like. I like seeing the characters of Levi and Erwin, kind of meet and become who we know them to be in the actual Attack on Titan series, because this is a prequel. But there were some elements that I thought were a little kind of but some elements that I really actually did like. And coming from a guy who's not the hugest fan of Attack on Titan, let's be real, I'm not the biggest fan of it. There's stuff I really like about it, but there's stuff I really hate about it. But this 2-volume series was not terrible. It was fine. And again, I have a full review on the channel if you're interested in learning more. So yeah. That's pretty much it. Similar to my one-offs manga video, basically, like I said, I love saving manga, or saving money, and saving space when it comes to my collecting of manga. So I just wanted to shine a light on some shorter series that might get overlooked due to, them not having a big run, so in turn them not having a big popularity associated with it because they're not publicized and pushed and advertised for a long period of time. So that popularity might tend to fade. But we got, a few things, like at least the first 2 by 2 very well-known mangaka that a lot of people that are fans of their series may not know of. So basically, that's kind of what I wanted this video to be. Again, similar to my last video on one-offs. Basically, just a cool, not cool, but like a way to show off some cool manga that some people may not have heard of. And it's in a form that's more accessible to newcomers to collecting and more accessible to those who don't have the time or money to commit to a full series. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that you can't do that, and I'm not saying that doing that is bad. I'm just saying this is an alternative that I feel like maybe a lot of people don't think of, or at least I don't. I shouldn't speak for everybody, but when I first got into collecting, it wasn't something that I immediately thought of. Like, hey, I could just like not spend a bunch of money and still get a full story. So again, it's just my little take on things. And again, like I said in the last video, basically all I'm trying to do is show off some cool manga that I feel like maybe a lot of people don't know about. So yeah, so that was my video about shorter series manga. The longest series that we talked about today had 5 volumes. Both Samurai 8 and Dragon Quest Monsters Plus both clocked in at only 5 volumes. So yeah, I think that's cool, I guess. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Appreciate the support on the channel. I have my video on one-shots, which came out prior to this video. You can check that out in the playlist of one-off videos on my channel. And I'll have reviews out shortly for some of the stuff that I talked about in this video and the last video. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys again. I'll see you in the next one.